Hey everyone,
Hey
welcome
guys.
back to the Dafa discussions. Hey Louis,
Hey Michael. How you going?
good. We're just we've got today um, a really big topic. To be honest, Louis and I have just spent the last about hour talking about how it is that we can really talk to everyone about this topic. Now, look, it's one thing to remember how complicated things get when you have um, a very large government, which is the Chinese government, doing everything it can to vilify the very beautiful practice that you do. In this case, it's Falun Gong. And Louis and I have talked quite a fair bit about the way that the Chinese government, all of the latest information that has come out, that the Chinese government, led by their premier, is not only going to, but has already started ramping up um, this vilification process, not only in China, but also outside of China, around the world. And also, naturally, the more broadly, the persecution against people like Louis and I who practice Falun Gong. Now, it's one thing for us to share with you about it. Louis has done a great job of helping everyone to understand how AI will play a strong part um, in this process of making videos and things online that demonize Falun Gong, or even um, maybe even using our own figure on screen, like you see Louis and I now, but it's talking something else, which is very easy for these things to do. Now, one of the things that we've spoken about is that all around the world, people like Louis and I, and Emma in another interview, Jess in another interview, and we'll have so many more. Um, People like, or all the people around the world, have started practicing Falun Gong. And we're always talking about how much it's done for us in our lives. And all of that, or so much of that, comes down to here and here, our hearts and minds, our peacefulness in life, how we look at things in a different way, because of the principles that Falun Dafa teaches, and that we've decided those are our principles now to live by. The benevolence that this beautiful Buddhist practice teaches. Now, we'd also shared that I only started doing humanitarians work after I became a Falun Gong practitioner because of that, because of seeing that my life actually is for others as well. It's for you, it's for Louis, it's for my family and my friends. And there is a phrase in the Buddhist school, and it's not only a phrase in Falun Gong, because the Buddhist school, including Buddhism as we know it, is vast. It is a vast, absolutely stunning, stunning world of spirituality. And one of those phrases is the salvation of all sentient beings. And when you first hear that, as a Westerner, I had no clue what the hell they were talking about. Because it really doesn't mean anything to me. And to be honest, because I've grown up in the West where religious faith is very minimal, actually, all around the world, religious faith is very minimal now in comparison to what it used to be. Um, I couldn't grasp the concept of what salvation, what is a sentient being for a start, the salvation of all sentient beings. And this particular phrase has a massive part to play. play in anything that is to do with the Buddhist school. And in my 21 years of practicing Falun Gong and experiencing the changes in myself and the world around me as I practice, the way I would translate that is that being part of the Buddhist school is to think far beyond just your own self, far beyond it, just your world, just your things, only just your family, only just your car. It really does prompt you to venture into selflessness, and it shows you the preciousness of every single person on the globe. And it goes even beyond that and allows you to understand the preciousness of all of life, which we know now, even through science, is so vast that it can't be comprehended by our minds. And because of that, that's what prompted this little practitioner to go out and do human rights work. And it also prompted me to understand the preciousness of things like um, the religions in our world, the proper religions, Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Protestantism, all of these true spiritual practices. And it prompted me to understand the preciousness of my marriage, my son, my commitment to my work, my balancing of all of those things. But it also prompted it further to understand how important you all are as beings in this life. So that gives, I hope that's given a relative understanding from me. Louis, what do you understand as those words after your years of practice?
Yeah, so for me, it's like you said, introduced a different layer of life with that word selflessness. For me, like, I don't feel I have achieved a great level of selflessness, but I'm definitely chipping away.
Me too.
um, but I do get glimpses from the practice of Falun Dafa, and as I work to let go of these different things that have like grounded in selfishness, I feel more and more what that selflessness is, and my purpose, my ultimate purpose in life, which Falun Dafa has given me, and that we're talking about right now. Um, um, for me in my life, it's been moving away from, the pleasure seeking feelings of, being in this world, whether it's the internet or drugs or alcohol or whatever, and moving more towards the Jen Shanren, the truthfulness, compassion, forbearance that Falun Dafa teaches. And like you said, that for a lot of practitioners that a lot of people might be seeing around in the street, or that's like holding up a sign or signing a petition and doing human rights kind of work. And I've done a lot of that, um, and yeah, it's a big concept, the idea of saving sentient beings, and it's foreign to a lot of people, and yeah, I think as society, like you said, Michael's kind of moved away from religion in many ways. But yeah, in our history books, in our spiritual books of the past, they've also talked about this kind of thing. So it's not a new thing, and
Oh,
it's not just a Falun Dafa thing.
you've hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
And that's really what Louis and I wanted to get to you is there has to be a question, and I know it's been on my mother's mind, and I know it's on a lot of people's minds is why do Falun Gong practitioners give simply so much of their time to try to do these massive things of, for example, we talked to you about the media, the Epoch Times, NTD TV. We talked to you about Shen Yun, that stunning theatrical production, which now is leading the world, by the way, in its what do you call it, category of theatre. It's leading the world. There's nothing in our world that is more professional, more beautiful, and now becoming world renowned for what it is, uh, by its peers. Why do we give so much time to going out like Louis and I do and handing out flyers about what the Chinese government's doing to the beautiful practice of Falun Gong in China? The organ harvesting that we told you about, that the Chinese government is doing to thousands upon thousands of innocent Falun Gong practitioners in China. Why do we give all our time for this? And this is a very big part of it. And the reason why I guess I'm getting Louis and I to really share with you from our hearts about this is because this saying, the salvation of all sentient beings, it all starts with goodness. It all starts with goodness. The goodness that you and me and Louis know, the kindness, the gentleness, the forgiveness, the ability to have someone do something that you know was wrong to you, but actually through a different understanding or a broader understanding of life, forgive them. We see that. Les Miserables, the movie with the Australian actor, is full of that. The man transforms himself through letting go of hatred of what life and people did to him. These kinds of elements are at the cornerstone of understanding why things like the Epoch Times media, NTD, Shen Yun have actually been able to, even through the suppression they've had to go through, blossomed in our world. And I can tell you, I've worked, Louis and I are going to show you some videos today. We're going to go through a few things today. I've worked with some of the amazing people who are in America, um, playing part in working with Shen Yun and helping to make it such an incredibly beautiful production, and a production that's blossoming and reaching more of the world. And also, I've worked in the media um, with, again, beautiful people who are giving their all to help bring to the world a media agency that actually is reporting true news. They weren't made simply, obviously, to say this is happening in China and that Falun Dafa is good. Of course, they actually know that the way that our world is being manipulated at the moment, whether it be politically or within higher spectrums of the society or whatever, they know that as a society, we need a truthful media. And of course, they're not the only one, there's quite a few, but they know that it helps the society to know what's going on in your world properly when you're actually being fed a truer truth, or the truth of particular things that are going on around the world, which is what we understand now as world news. So, this, the salvation of all sentient beings, allows every Falun Gong practitioner, I believe, to realize that there is infinitely, um, infinitely more important things out there than me, um, becoming a millionaire through the family business that we run, which, to be honest, I'm pretty sure we could if I worked hard enough. But I balance my world, and Louis balances his world more towards you, more towards all of you. not to make you into a Falun Gong practitioner, because to be honest, it's not easy being a Falun Gong practitioner. You have to work hard on your heart. That is the cornerstone of it all, and that's what Teacher Li Hongzhi is constantly teaching. You've got to work hard on your heart. You've got to become a better person, a kinder person, etc., etc. So, um, personally, I want you all to know that, because it will help everyone to understand why Falun Gong practitioners have created media and the fine arts in Chinese fine arts, and how it is that so many people around the world give so much of their time to things like Shen Yun and things like these media, just to support them, because at their core, that is what they're wanting to do. At the core of what Shen Yun is doing, it is reaching people with the traditional morality that was China's for 5,000 years. If we all had a little more traditional morality, as in all of this forbearance, kindness, the morality that I guess many of us grew up with, especially those who are a bit grey in the beard, um, the world we know may not be as rich in some of the areas financially, but it would be a lot more balanced and harmonious and kind and safe. So those areas are actually the parts that a lot of our grandparents are missing. They miss all that. They see that their children are driving beautiful Audis, but they also know that their children who are bringing up other children are a mess when it comes to how they think about their neighbours, how they think about, um, you know, political policy and why it's important in different ways. They're a mess in the the fundamentals of kindness and traditional thinking. And so, what we're going to do, Louis and I are going to show you now a video that was sent to me by a lady in Vietnam. And I want you guys to know all the ins and outs of this, because this is how this is how people are together. You know, when we're working on beautiful things together, we're all thinking of each other. Oh, I wonder if this video might help Mike on his show.
Yeah.
So anyway, a lovely lady named Mimi, who I contacted a long time ago accidentally while I was working in the media. She's seen our show. She's seen the Dafa discussions, loves it, and knows that it can help everyone to understand what Falun Dafa is at its core and truth, and also explain about this persecution and this vilification process that the Chinese government's doing. And she texted me and said, Mike, these two videos are breaking my heart. She said, I think one of them is just a bit misled. The guy who's doing it is just doesn't, he might not even truly understand Falun Dafa. That's a really, you got to be honest, you got to watch both of them. But this one, actually, both the guys on these videos I actually quite like. but
Yeah.
but what they're doing, one of them especially, is exactly what Louis and I were talking about. They are utilizing the worst methods, the the gross misinformation that's out there, and they're doing basically the Chinese government's bidding, whether they know it or not. They're doing the Chinese government's bidding, and so um, we're going to run a few pieces of this first video, and then we'll stop and we'll talk about either pieces of information or we'll just give our thoughts on it, with the hopes that you'll get it. You'll start to see what these propaganda videos look like. Now, whether this is direct propaganda funded by the CCP or not, actually, Louis and I were discussing it, and we sort of don't know. We kind of think maybe it might not be. Um, but remembering that the kids who grew up in China, they grew up under the communist teaching, the atheist teaching. and that the Chinese government is their God and their Buddha, and they truly believe it. So that can be really tough on a kid when he comes out to the West. He's still got that thinking, and he's still taking in all the information from China, and then he's regurgitating it out to he might even be trying to help his government. He might think he's doing a good thing. We don't know, but we want to show you and talk about it anyway. So, Louis, throw that video on, and let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this first couple of minutes of the first one.
More than just beautiful dance.
Members of the outlawed Falun
It's a
Gong
touch
sect
of the
took to
divine.
Beijing's Tiananmen
It's
Square on
becoming a
Sunday.
notice
China's
More than
national
just
hero.
legends.
were arrested
They
and detained
meditated,
in
raised yellow banners
Some
in a
of us
protest
were
that
beaten
defied
very
heavy security.
badly.
Shen Yun. Do you guys know about the cult Shen Yun? Well, I'm actually at the concert, but I have the whole balcony to myself. No one's here at the balcony. I don't know why. See?
This video is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. All statements made are based on publicly available information and personal interpretation, and no statement is intended to be a factual claim. This video is an expression of opinion and protected by freedom of speech.
Do you remember being 8 years old after a heavy dinner at the hometown buffet, ready to take another scoop of 2-month-old ice cream, and you look out the window to spot something boring? A Shen Yun poster, an Asian woman, colors, words, a show. I don't care. I'm trying to get my high score in Dexter's Laboratory Chess right now. Then as you get older, it gets more ingrained into your head. You start to see Shen Yun on billboards, TV ads, and your local boba shops. One day you ask a friend, they're like, oh, did you know this is actually a cult? And you're like, whoa, what? Queen of D5, I should have fucking known this. But let's get deeper. Back in the 80s, Qigong was booming, which is a mix of traditional slow-moving exercises, breathing, and meditation for perceived spiritual and health benefits. Tai Chi is one form of Qigong, so whenever you see elderly people doing some stretching at the park, you know what they're doing now. And while all of this was happening, there was one person who changed the game. A random security guard working at a cereal factory watched all this success and thought, oh, this actually could be pretty lucrative. I'm also really fucking crazy. Hang on one sec. And in the spring of 1992, Falun Gong was born.
Okay. So far, obviously, this young kid, he looks actually, like I said, he looks like a really nice kid, and he's doing an amazing job with this video. Like some of the,
Yeah.
some of the tricks and stuff that he's using is very cool. We've actually got to remember it because it looks amazing. But anyway, um, first of all, it is thoroughly bombarding. Thoroughly bombarding. The first thing I noticed is you will never get an impression of this kid for who he really is, as in what he's really like or what kind of person he really is, because it's not made for that. It's not made for that at all. The bombardment of layers upon layers of audio running at the same time and images running so quickly, it's just incredibly confusing. But it did make me think of one thing, which is if you really don't know what's going on and this gets thrown in front of you with the kind of stuff that he talks about, especially the way he just talked about Li Hongzhi. Now, Mr. Li Hongzhi, it is world known that he's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 4 times for this practice of Falun Gong. And he's talking about him and downing him because he has a regular job. And the kid's probably right. He probably was doing some sort of something in a cereal making factory, which has nothing to do with anything. And the other thing is too, the first thing I really took in from this was, and you'll see it because we'll leave the link for this for you to have a look at the whole thing. The way this young man speaks and the way he speaks about things is, I don't know any other way to put it than a very young crass that we tend to get, especially with some of the just the young people in our world. And when they're talking about things, it's just so it's almost craziness. It's almost comes across as just putting something over in a way that is crazy. It's just literally over the top. Louis, what do you think about this first bit?
Yeah. Yeah, the way he's depicted Shen Yun and Falun Gong so far, it doesn't give you much room to ponder anything. But there's a lot of nuance to this practice and to Shen Yun, which is missed in this video. And he's already making a lot of claims of Falun Gong being a cult. And there's like different definitions to the word cult. I used to be like kind of a bit scared of the word cult. Like, oh no, don't call me part of a cult. But it's kind of lost its weight for me. But I think it's the word's kind of used by the CCP as a kind of political tool to dismiss any spiritual validity that may exist in Falun Dafa or any spiritual practice, really. And that's not to say that real cults don't exist; they definitely do. But cults tend to be something that is manipulative and causes a lot of harm to individuals. And they do, in these kind of videos, they do often try and kind of create that kind of narrative that Falun Dafa is manipulative or emotionally manipulative, and we'll probably address that shortly. But ultimately, Falun Dafa is, and what we've been talking about, is about cultivating your heart and your mind and really living truthfulness, compassion, forbearance. So obviously, with just Michael, Emma's, and Jess's testimonials, you'll probably already tell that Falun Dafa has been pretty good for us, and we're not crazy or worshipping Master Lee so crazily that you can't even see who we really are. But yeah, I don't know
And
what else to say.
on top of that, on top of that, cults from my experience of a cult, the things that are practiced in a cult tend to want to stay secret. Cults tend to want to all live together. For example, um, there's if you cast your mind back, whoever's watching at the moment, cast your mind back to what you think would be a cult, the Manson cult, in America that went around murdering people. I remember another cult in America where I think the police went to get them. I'm only grabbing fragments of my memories here. The police went to get them and they burnt their barns down and their houses down. They all lived in this one central area. And things were relatively secret with these cults. And I remember when I started practicing Falun Gong, and I found out that everything that is spoken about in Falun Gong, whether it be the direct teaching, Zhuan Falun, which is what we study and allow those principles to guide the way we live our lives, the way we structure how we want to deal with any particular situation. Do I want to turn around and tell this guy to get stuffed and give him a rude sign? Or do I want to turn around and just say, no, I understand you, mate. No problem. Okay. All right. I'll see you later. How do I want to deal with any particular situation in my life, let alone just a particular conflict I might be having with another bloke? To all of the things that Teacher Lee has spoken about around the world, to thousands of gathering people that have come to listen to him talk. And all of it is is on websites free to just go and look at. And that's what I find too is one of the things that the the Chinese government has done. They've taken that they rifle through everything that Teacher Lee has spoken about, and then they use whatever he speaks about against him. And that is the way you demonize someone. That is the way you do it. For example, and well, actually, we won't go through all of them now. There's a lot of things that we'll talk about while we're looking at these videos. Um, but Louis, let's have a look at the next snippet. We only want to show you snippets of these videos, or else we will hold you up way too long, and we don't want to do that. But we will be putting the links of these into the show description. We really want you guys, more than anything, to start to get used to what these things look like. We'll share about them and describe them, but this will give you a well-rounded feeling for how to really just see through the stuff that is out there that's just vilification material from whether it be the CCP or one of the things they're doing with a Western influencer, which is one of the things they've got down as their priorities. They want to link up with Western influencers online and manipulate them into putting out anti-Falun Gong and anti-Shen Yun now materials. So anyway, let's have a look.
Yeah, and just to quickly add to that, this video and the next one we're going to show you, they often reference a few New York Times articles. And yeah, we're not going to go through every single point, but we'll put down some resources down below of articles that have addressed every single point in these articles and give you a kind of broader context to why we're saying that these kind of arguments are misleading or wrong. And that way, if you want to learn a bit more, then you can. So we'll just play the next bit we've got here.
Essentially, doing these movements brings you closer to spiritual salvation, can heal any kind of illness you're going to get, and gives you superpowers.
Yeah, and just to address what he's saying, it's very clear that this poor kid, I don't think he's ever really even looked at what Falun Gong is uh, in any way, because one of the main things that Mr. Li Hongzhi brings up is that you can't truly spiritually cultivate uh, if all you're after is the thought of some sort of supernormal ability or just healing your illness. So, what the kids brought up is just so completely the opposite of what is being taught in Falun Gong. In actual fact, I'll share with everyone your practice of Falun Gong. Just try to imagine what it's like to take what you know as your own character, okay? You're this kind of person, you're that kind of person, and then try to conceive of making yourself a better person in the way of compassion and kindness and all of these things. And then go a little bit further than that and have a look at what it would really take to be a virtuous person, a truly virtuous person, who truly thinks of others before him or herself. These practices like Falun Gong, these practices that are actually teaching people not only can you better yourself, but if you truly wish to, you can spiritually ascend. So you can actually better yourself to the point where you truly are what people like yourselves or myself might see as, as beautiful as, whether it be the Dalai Lama, or whether it be some kind of spiritual guru that we think about, that is living a fairly secular life out in a monastery or in a mountain or whatever. But in actual fact, Falun Gong teaches you that you're able to better your nature in amongst everyone. You don't need to go out to a temple. You don't need to shave your head, put on robes, and go and live in the mountains. In actual fact, it all starts here and here. Genuinely understanding what is the spiritual world and what it entails, and that every human being has what it takes to become a better person in the way of these spiritual principles. So, with this young man, his points that he's making are simply the opposite of what Falun Gong teaches, but he's shoving it down your throat that Falun Gong, the teacher, for one, works in a cereal factory, okay, and then throws out that Falun Gong claims that you'll heal all your illnesses if you practice. You'll be able to float up in midair, and that you'll have supernormal powers. When in actual fact, there's no practitioner on the globe who's truly practicing, who's practicing for any of that. None of it. There is a book like this thick that was made in China back before the regime decided to try to destroy Falun Gong's reputation. Because before they went to destroy Falun Gong's reputation, Falun Gong was the biggest thing since sliced bread in China. It was one of the most loved elements of China they had ever had right across the nation. And one of the main reasons was, I would say, just talking about it rationally from my point of view, is that all of these people who turned around and read Juan Falun and actually enlightened to the fact that they can become a better person and that that is the true path of the spiritual path for a human being, they realized it and they began, and they had the most beautiful things happening in their lives. And Teacher Lee teaches an incredibly well rounded understanding, every way to help you understand the true power of the universe and the spiritual world around you. And so, everywhere in China, there were thousands upon thousands of men and women who were healing their marriages, their bodies, their family relationships, everything, other than the fact that they were finding peace in their own minds, regardless of what situation their life was in. So, really, even just with a few measly seconds in a video like this, you can see that it's just propaganda or hatred, maybe, because that's what the Chinese government, I'm sure a lot of you aren't stupid. All of you listening to us now, you're definitely not stupid. You will have heard about the way the Chinese government runs its own people in China. And so when they want their people to hate a certain country, like America, they will indoctrinate them with it in the schools, in the media, in everything. However, they have to get you to hate a particular thing, they'll do it. And this poor young fella, I think, is just simply one of them, one of the many. And he just happens to have some exceptional video editing talent. Anyway, let's watch the next bit.
Now, I want to preface that I didn't really talk about why Shen Yun is bad. Pretty much, they traffic kids at a young age to their compound. They're not allowed to see their family often. There's multiple accounts of abuse from a New York Times article. They get donations for the academy, but they spend it on fancy shit. I'm also pretty sure you'll see a Shen Yun ad during this video, so get ready.
There you go. I'll go first on this one, Lou.
Okay.
Just very quickly, the question probably is, why would the CCP bother going after Shen Yun? Even though it was made by practitioners, it was made by practitioners who had fled China because of the organ harvesting and the overall genocide of Falun Gong in China. And just like the Chinese practitioner who started the media, Epoch Times, etc., because they were in a free world, they were able to do something that helped to counter the kind of stuff that was going on in their own country, which a lot of different people in different countries that have had to flee their country because of genocide or overall persecution have done the same. If you look back in history, it's happened quite often. But um, uh, why would the CCP want to attack Shen Yun? Well, what they've done in Shen Yun, other than making it incredibly high quality, the dancers are some of the, and I mean the best in the world. They are the most outstanding performers, or in the caliber of the most outstanding dance performers in our world. Um, in because it was Falun Gong practitioners who started Shen Yun, and their mission is to revive the traditional cultures and principles of China, the stuff that they've had for a long, long time. And that doesn't mean that everyone in China was following the most benevolent principles and are amazing. Obviously, it's like anywhere, even though they might be the foundations of our society, some of us are better and some of us are worse. And it's pretty much global. But what they brought back was the foundations of their traditional society, the Chinese society, traditional principles, Confucianism, the Buddhism, the Taoism, the principles of society that ran them as the emperors, etc., etc. And but also they show the persecution of Falun Gong within the show. Now they do it in the most stunning way. The most stunning way. It's obviously not grotesque or horrible or anything like that, but they use this, I would call it a universal media, which is song and dance and expression. Expression, incredibly rich. We underestimate expression all the time. But theatrical goers don't. They understand that you can give your heart to people on the stage simply by your expressions and your movement. And this is very much what Shen Yun does. So, because people have reacted so positively to Shen Yun, both to the professional nature that it has, and also at the same time, they've been able to see the persecution that's going on in China, and this has been accepted wholeheartedly. And of course, I'd say a lot of people who go to Shen Yun, they go and have a look at the persecution afterwards, and they for themselves will corroborate from Amnesty International and all the other massive foundations that have corroborated everything from the organ harvesting to the overall genocide. Um, they know it for themselves, and they thank Shen Yun for giving them that information. So the CCP, the Chinese government, can see now that there's no way in the world they thought that these Chinese people who were fleeing their country could achieve such beautiful, large scale things. I'm sure they must be pooing their pants, quite literally, because these poor, well, not poor as in wealth, but these persecuted Chinese people who were able to flee genocide from their own government were able to, in a free country, develop things of such spectacular nature with the help of so many other like minded people around the world, and actually be clarifying the truths of the persecution to millions upon millions upon millions of people. Think about that. How scared is the Chinese government now? They would be terrified. And if I were some evil nutcase at the head of that Politburo in China, I would put every resource I have left into trying to stop it, because I can already see my end simply by the fact of everyone knows what I did. Not because Falun Gong's turning around and picking up arms or doing anything of the sort. They're simply telling the truth about what the Chinese government did. That's it. So, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, they just to go back to the video, he said a lot in a very short amount of time. One of the things he said was something about using young children in the performances, and somehow that's to do with trafficking or something like that. So what I'll also bring up before I get into that is like the Dragon Springs Temple, which the CCP and in the New York Times, they kind of label it as a compound or like a base. Like, it makes it sound
Like
very
a cult
mysterious.
base, like a
Yeah.
cult base.
But in actuality, it's a very beautiful like temple and school grounds for the Feitian Academy of the Arts, which is where a lot of young kids of Falun Dafa practitioners go and learn this traditional culture and traditional Chinese dance. And naturally, a lot of those parents probably want their kids to be a part of Shen Yun, looking at how beautiful and magnificent the performance is, and the positive feelings and the spiritual nature of the show. And the with these articles, they kind of give the impression that they're using these kids, they're manipulating, and they're forcing children to do these things. But in reality, like many young girls and boys, they want to be, with a bit of encouragement from their parents, want to be part of this beautiful show, but also to learn dance and learn these traditional values. Because I think Michael's probably talked about it quite a bit. Just there's a lot of quite bad influences in society at the moment, especially even in the schooling industry. So it's natural that people want to send their kids to a good school, and this is a normal school as well, at this Dragon Springs Temple on this property. I guess my other point I was going to make is, yeah, these kids, if they if they get through all their really hard efforts of practice, if they get accepted, then they get to do a kind of apprenticeship. I'm not exactly sure how they refer to it, but where they get to perform with Shen Yun. And that's my understanding of it. Maybe one day we'll be blessed enough to have somebody from Shen Yun explain in a bit better way what they do.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. But yeah, it's making something that's otherwise very normal sound very very evil.
Very.
Yeah. And of course, like, being a professional dancer is very difficult. It takes a lot of effort, it's a lot of suffering, a lot of dedication, and if you're forced into it by your parents, then maybe you won't want to do that. And in some cases, unfortunately, some of the examples they give with the New York Times article are these people who are probably pushed a bit too hard by their parents, when maybe they shouldn't have been. And
Have many of you met? I know quite a few Chinese parents.
yeah,
They get pretty pushy.
yeah,
I've seen movies that emulate Chinese parents quite well. They're pretty tough, but that's very
yeah,
natural too.
yeah. It's a bit of a meme at this point how strict Chinese parents are with their children. So it shouldn't be too surprising, but of course that doesn't make it okay. But the CCP will, or media that supports this kind of narrative, will use these kind of flaws and make it seem a lot worse than it actually is.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like it's real silliness. Like I've got my son over there making some noise, and I can tell you as a parent, when I feel like something would be really good for him, to do, a direction to go in life, it's my responsibility to help him to see what I'm talking about, and to at least see if he wants to really have a go at it. And that's very good, very normal. But they've really taken it and just used it as a twisted, awful thing. This is what I mean. This is how easy it is to make something good bad, isn't it? It's so easy. It's terrifying. Sorry, Louis.
No,
Being
no,
a
it's
parent, I guess I'm a little more passionate about it.
yeah. Like I only know about being a parrot from reading about it. So, um,
All right. Well, let's. Have we got another clip from this one?
no, we only picked out 3 from this one.
Okay. And
Um,
look, everyone, the reason why we only picked out 3 is because, to be honest, Louis and I could talk all day long about every fraction of this very long video that this young man has made. But you don't have the time to sit down and watch all that. And to be honest, Louis and I don't have the time to make 3 or 4 hour videos for you either, although we'd love to. But this Louis and I are using this as an example with just the little pieces you've seen already. Um, he he brings up little text boxes that Louis and I have looked at. Quite a few of them already are just from comments that anyone has made on like Reddit or something like that. Anyone has just made a comment, but he flips them on there at a million miles an hour to try to make grounded, correct, truthful points, as in he's making truthful points to you. But this is really silliness. It's just, and the rate at which everything is flowing within the video, how can you make head or tail of it? The only thing he's saying to you is, I can't stand Falun Gong or Shen Yun. It's boring and it's crap. And then he's saying, did you know that it's a cult, and that Li Hongzhi used to work in a cereal factory and just realized he could make heaps of money out of Qigong? Honestly, I mean, but but don't don't underestimate the power of what this young man has made, because while I was watching it, the only thing that was left in my mind was, oh gosh, what is that Falun Gong? Is it really a cult? What's it all about? Like, God, what? Li Hongzhi
yeah,
made tons of money out of it. This is what it'll leave you with, because you don't know. What Louis and I want to do is give you more information, give you the entire picture, so that you can really see this stuff for what it is.
yeah. It's easy to make a video with lots of short points, but in reality, like everything has a lot of nuance and detail to it, and so it's very easy to make all these accusations, and you know, you could say there's like relative truth to it all, but there's so much nuance to everything that it's not true, you know.
Like a perfect example from what Louis just said is supernormal powers. Everyone, supernormal powers exist. We all know that. Like, there are more than enough global scientific institutions who have studied it for the last 4 decades, especially. And we all know, even as many women who are watching will know, even at a common value, some people have real, like a sixth sense about certain things. My mother, for example, oh my gosh, I could never get away with a thing because she just know that I was lying. All of these aspects, in those included, these more subtle things and some of the more like whoa kinds of things, we know that they have grounding. We know that those things. We also know that if science can make something levitate in the air because of a magnetic field, well, then you can bet your life that the universe has those kind of things in it somewhere or other. Like this is really 1 + 1 = 2 stuff, everyone.
Mm.
Like, if guys, if you're someone watching right now and says, "Oh no, that's all just hocus pocus," you know, You can't discount a mother's intuition, and that sure as heck doesn't come from anywhere tangible.
Yeah.
So just looking at things
Yeah.
like that, um, what this young man has said, supernormal abilities, yep, Falun Gong. Teacher Lee actually speaks so broadly about them and so completely and fully to give you the picture of what they are, why they are, how they are, and that they're the last thing that a practitioner should be thinking about during the course of their practicing Falun Gong. The last thing, in other words, not at all, basically. But he lets you know that they exist. Naturally, all spiritual leaders will let you know that those things in their different capacities exist naturally. But those elements for a true Falun Gong practitioner, they're not even a thought in our minds generally because our whole practice focuses us on developing the true spiritual heart, which we always talk about. That's the part that only I can do for myself. Only I can do that. Only Louis can do that for himself. If you're out there practicing Christianity or Buddhism or Taoism, Catholicism, only you can follow Buddha or Christ, follow God, and actually be and become as Jesus was, magnificent. Only you can do those things. But as Jesus showed, a man can do that, a woman can do that, a child can do that. It's just understanding the true the true nature completely that allows you to understand how that stuff there is just so completely bogus. It's real rubbish. And the nature of it, even the energy that comes out of it, most people, you should be able to feel that it's just not right. There's something not right about it in quite a big way. I just want to say something hilarious to everyone. Now, what we're tackling here with all of this fake news and this demonizing kind of stuff is actually really complicated because the nature of it, the nature of seeing through it is difficult sometimes. But anyway, between when we first started this episode till now, you'll see we've already gone for around about an hour. So I've just realized it. Obviously, you can see we've just sort of stopped. And then Louis let me know it was an hour, and everything in there we really love. We really want you guys to have everything that we've just put into that part of it. But because we've gone so long, we're gonna make this the first part of this episode because we can't keep you forever.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll say goodbye for this episode. But the other video, we've got two other videos that we wanted to show you for this episode. So there's another video that we'll show you on the next episode next week. And hopefully, I'll talk a little bit less so that we can fit the third one in as well. Okay. But take everything that we've given you in this episode because we've really hit on a very key point here. Why do Falun Gong practitioners do simply so much in all of these relevant medias and gorgeous theatrical companies and things? It's because it's part of our hearts to support things, especially that practitioners are doing around the world, that help people get good things, whether it be traditional morals from the Chinese perspective, whether it be true news, so that we're not all sort of having news outlets direct us in our different emotions and thoughts in not such good ways, just straight up true news. The salvation of all sentient beings means that we care about everyone, not just our own practice or, if you want to call it a religion, you can. Not only just people who practice Falun Gong, but everyone. The more we're able to actually just lift our morals in a very universal way, the better our society will go. The worse we drop our basic morality and kindness and compassion, the worse our societies will go. That's something everyone can understand. And to be honest, that's one of the things from me to you, just me. This is one of the main elements that Falun Gong was able to touch in me that allowed me to understand the importance of all of us together. So, and Louis, what would you like to wrap up with now that we're wrapping this up for this episode?
I think everything you said was perfect. But yeah, if you have any questions, like we said in the last episode, you can email us at dafadiscussions@pm.me, or I'll put down some more content in the description to kind of addresses this New York Times article that a lot of these videos are referencing, and that will answer all those questions that are accused of all these confusion points and things that happen in these articles that are addressed in that article. Yeah.
Perfect, bud. And also, don't forget, like anything else, we'd like to see more of you. Like it. I'm not even quite sure how it works, whether you press a thumbs up that's on our page or whether you give it a tick. I'm not quite sure how it works, but you guys probably do because you watch this kind of stuff all the time. Also, write a comment. Like, we do look at our comments, not all the time. We've both got jobs and families, obviously. So, this isn't a business for us by no means at all. No way. But we do come and look at the comments. We do come back to you. So if there's a comment or you want to write something in our comments that's asking us a question, or even give us a link to something that you've seen that you'd love to hear us clarify, that's a good one. Really, stick the link in there. Louis and I'll watch it. We'll make an episode out of it.
Yeah.
And give us your name. We'll let everyone know this is the person who gave it to us, and thank you.
Yeah. If you want to be named.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good night, Louis.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks.